I'm Carolyn Rye, Chair of the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I hereby call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. on this 9th day of November 21. Pursuant to the Virginia State Health Commissioner's Order of Public Health Emergency statewide requirement to wear masks in K-12 schools issued August 12th of 21, and Virginia Acts of Assembly number 1303, Chapter 456, and the CDC's guidance for K-12 schools, and the School Board's 21-22 reopening plan adopted August 10th of this year, it's determined that physical distancing will be used in school board chambers as a health mitigation strategy. Thus, there will be limited public seating available on a first-come, first-served basis beginning shortly before this meeting. Members of the public, as always, are able to observe the school board meeting through live streaming on vbschools.com, broadcast on VBTV Channel 47, and on Zoom. We welcome everyone joining us here, present here this evening, as well as our viewing public. With that, Madam Clerk, would you please take the verbal roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Present in school board chambers are Chairwoman Rye, Ms. Melnick, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Felton, Ms. Franklin, Ms. Holt, Ms. Hughes, Ms. Manning, Ms. Owens, Ms. Riggs, and Ms. Weems.
Thank you. So would all present please join me now in a moment of silence? And please stand as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That leads us into our student, employee, and public awards and recognition part of tonight's program, and I turn the program over to our presenter, Vice Chair Mrs. Melnick.
Tonight, we as a board are pleased to announce the school board recognition recipients for November 9th, 2021. Mrs. Franklin.
This evening we are excited to recognize Kendra Harris as the Virginia Art Education Association's Middle School Art Educator of the Year. Mr. Harris has accomplished amazing things for the art education program at Old Nation School as a teacher and as a working artist, both locally and nationally. He utilizes a hands-on teaching style to encourage students to work collaboratively in their art-making experience. Additionally, he frequently shares his immense knowledge and skills with other art professionals during professional development classes and workshops. He encourages his students to be creative as well as tackle challenges with out-of-the-box thinking, but this thought process isn't limited to his students. He was the mastermind of the VBCPS Drive-In Art Show, a guest artist during the Tidewater Virginia Art Education Association summer workshop, and has served on a number of VBCPS visual art committees. Additionally, his most recent personal art exhibition at the Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art showcases his partnership with the Brock Environmental Center and Oyster Restoration. His true love of art education can be seen in his professional work, teaching, and leadership. Congratulations again, Mr. Harris, for this tremendous honor.
Thank you, Mrs. Franklin.
Next we are honored to recognize the recipient of this year's Virginia Art Education Association Retired Art Teacher of the Year, Stephanie Slate. We all recognize the tremendous loss that can be felt when a talented teacher retires. However, we have been lucky to retain her as a part-time teacher at both Tallwood and Thurgood Elementary Schools. So she is still able to share her knowledge with our students. More so, you would never know she is retired, considering her ongoing support of the virtual arts department and her continued presence at schools and division's efforts. She has also been a member of the Tidewater Art Education Association since 1988 and has contributed to the Virginia Beach City Public School visual arts program in countless capacities as well as to the community at large for over 30 years. Congratulations, Mrs. Slate, on your well-earned award as the Virginia Art Education Association Retired Art Teacher of the Year. Thank you for being a true example of an amazing educator.
Rounding out our recognitions this evening is Jessica Fun Hazen, who has been named as this year's Virginia Art Education Association Secondary Art Educator of the Year. Currently, she works at Cox High School, where she's been the lead art teacher since 2016 and the Fine Arts Department Chair since 2018. Additionally, she has been the sponsor for the National Art Honor Society at Cox High School since 2013. Jessica is also frequently and lovingly referred to as Mrs. V, or better yet, Mrs. Fun, by many students and staff, and that isn't just because of her last name, but also because her classes are so fun, creative, and innovative. For example, her students have worked with St. Mary's Home for Disabled Children to host an art workshop and fundraising gala. Each year, they take part in the Memory Project, creating portraits for children worldwide who are dealing with various hardships, the Brahaha Design Contest to raise awareness of breast cancer, and the Elie Wiesel Art Contest to honor victims of the Holocaust and raise awareness of social injustices. In addition, Mrs. Fun has coordinated field trips to MoCA with her National Art Honor Society students and students in self-contained classes from Cox. Through opportunities like these, her students learn that art can be a powerful tool for change. The skills and knowledge she shares with her students are helping to create a generation of artists who value the power of their creation and the importance of connecting to their community and world. Mrs. Fun is an amazing and involved educator, and her dedication to art education and her community is commendable. Thank you for your continued hard work, and congratulations again on this outstanding award.
Madam Chair, this concludes the recognitions for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, adoption of the agenda, and this is a reminder that we will be continuing this afternoon's workshop, item 17. That will be a wrap-up of the facility use application discussion, as well as our COVID update. So with that, are there any modifications to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, a motion to approve. Mrs. Riggs, and a second, Mrs. Holtz. All in favor, show a raised hand, please.
Madam Chair, we have a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the meeting minutes from October 26, 2021, the regular school board meeting. Any modifications to these minutes? All right, hearing none, motion to approve. Mrs. Franklin, and a second, Ms. Owens. Please show your approval with a raised hand.
Madam Chair, we have 10 ayes.
And abstention, please show a raised hand.
I'm abstaining because I was absent.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. So we have 10 ayes and no nays, 1 abstention. The motion did pass.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us to the public comments portion of our meeting. We will now hear public comments on matters relevant to pre-K to 12 public education in Virginia Beach and the business of the school board and school division from citizens and delegations who signed up with the school board clerk prior to noon today. Persons not called to the podium to address the board are reminded to be respectful of speakers so the school board and persons observing the meeting are able to hear and observe each speaker's comments. Speakers are signed up to speak will be called up 3 at a time. We ask that you proceed to line up when your name is called. In-person student speakers will be called first, followed by student speakers participating through Zoom. After the student speakers, in-person speakers will be called, followed by speakers participating through Zoom or telephone. We ask that you begin speaking once your name is called. As a reminder, each speaker has 3 minutes to present and will be given a 30-minute warning before time expires. We suggest you refer to the online time tracker to keep track of your time. And once your time has expired, that you kindly stop making remarks and allow the next speaker queued to speak. If a speaker is not present when called to speak or not online when called, the board at its sole discretion may allow the speaker to speak at the end of the public comments session. In accordance with newly amended bylaws, the board will suspend public comments at 8 o'clock to hold the information session of the meeting agenda and return to public comments if needed prior to the consent and action sessions of the meeting. And as always, the board invites the public to submit comments through our group email account, which can be found on our website. So with that, Madam Clerk, would you please introduce the first speaker of the evening?
Our first student speaker is Griffin Budd.
Welcome.
Thank you. I want to start tonight by saying thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I hope that what I have to say is taken with deep consideration. My name is Griffin Butt, and I'm a senior at Cox High School. I've been playing lacrosse for 13 years now, going on 14 in a couple months. There's never a day where lacrosse isn't on my mind or I'm doing something to better myself within the sport. Being fully immersed in the sport has made me thankful for everything it has given me in return. Winning championships and having last-second goals come second to the friendships I've built and the lessons I've learned. A great example can be seen through the Harlem Lacrosse Program, which provides opportunities for kids in Harlem that weren't able to play lacrosse but now are. With the development of this program, these kids are now able to play Division I lacrosse, and there are a few notable names that have received records as well. I am planning to play Division I lacrosse at Princeton University next year with a preferred walk-on spot, on track with my admissions. While college is not the goal of making lacrosse a varsity sport for everyone and not the reason for the vote, it is more about what the sport brings to the kids and what they're allowed to do. Playing in college has always been a goal of mine, but made difficult because of the lack of lacrosse in Virginia Beach and the lack of exposure at high schools competing against kids in Maryland and New York where established programs have been made. With college lacrosse, there are great outreach programs such as the Michael Bresci game, which has just happened between UNC and Ohio State, which was played in the remembrance of Michael Bresci, who died at the age of 4. I hope that my goal is to have lacrosse be voted as a varsity sport so that we can get the necessary support from the schools and make memories just like the Michael Bresci Memorial Game. Thank you, guys.
Madam Chair, we're going to move on to our in-person speakers. The first speaker asked to be moved to Zoom, so we will begin with Thomas Conant, Vincent Smith, and then Richard Hannibal.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak about rights and responsibilities. On October 26th, at a rally outside this building, the parents and taxpayers in attendance invited several students who had signed up to speak that night in the school board meeting to address the rally, despite the fact that they oppose many of the issues we represent. We did that because the right to speak is enshrined in our Constitution and is guaranteed even to those with whom we disagree. It's too bad that this board doesn't see it that way. You've walked all over the rights of those who oppose many of the policies you've enacted. First, the health department and you continue to keep us out of these chambers, despite the fact that the COVID case rate continues to decline. Then you voted to reduce the time we get to
I'm
speak
pretty sure this guy is
and to
actually
move
in
every
the
student
chamber, so I
speaker
don't
to
know
the
what
head of
he's
the
talking
line,
about.
ostensibly because they need to be in bed early because of school. Have you ever lived with a teenager? And what about the parents who must get up early to get them ready for school or go to work to pay the taxes to support the schools? Do you think the students who have minimal experience in real life should have more to say in the policies that govern our schools than those who are responsible for the students and who support the school system with their taxes? Giving them priority tells me that you intend to listen to them more than to the real adults in the room. If that were not enough, at the last meeting you voted to obstruct the right of citizens to peaceably assemble in the parking lot outside this building. Are you so afraid of our free speech that you want to curtail that speech and keep it away from your facilities? And who are you to overthrow these basic rights given by God and written in our laws? More important than rights, we all have responsibilities. These parents are responsible for their children's safety, health, education, and moral training. The school's responsibility is to give them the basic ability to read, to do entry-level math, and have a basic knowledge of history, civics, and science. And it is the taxpayer's responsibility to oversee the performance of our elected officials and hold you accountable for your responsibilities. Your totalitarian actions to limit that oversight by eliminating or curtailing our input is unconscionable. We intend to uphold our responsibilities by exercising our rights of free speech and peaceable assembly. That's why we're working on a recall petition as we speak. But make no mistake, if the recall doesn't work, there will be an
30
election in
seconds.
2022 and 2024. And just like the current administration was swept out of office last week, the heavy-handed members of this school board will be defeated at the polls. It's time for you to do what you're responsible for. Educate the children, stop the divisive indoctrination, and stop trying to take away constitutional rights. I strongly urge that you revisit and rescind the egregious ruling that permits a required to peaceably assemble, then get back to doing your job. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Vincent Smith, then Rich Hannibal, then Dan Chang.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Vincent Smith. I'm here to comment on your reversion fund plan. Your legislative agenda that we just looked at on these screens a little bit ago is very heavy in discussing teacher and staff retention, but it's not addressed anywhere in your reversion plan. If it's important enough for you to ask the state to address it, why don't you want to handle it yourself? You want to go and use their money. So, well, that's all our money. Correct me, please. Yet you haven't addressed that. Your teachers are burnt out. They are covering multiple classes. They are being assigned, not asked, they are being assigned to teach during their scheduled planning sessions. So all this talk about how many planning sessions they have is a load of baloney because they're being told to go teach a class during that period. So they're not getting their planning time. They're having to do it at home. Is that in line with their contract? You might want to ask your attorney back here. Can you do that legally? Because you are right now. They're being required to switch from Schoology to Canvas mid-year for the state's benefit, not for your students' benefit. Am I correct? They're being stressed to the point of hospitalization, and that is not an exaggeration. Yet you have not addressed these issues with these reversion funds at all. $7 million for school buses. You don't have anyone to drive them. Who's going to drive them? You have admitted, you've even put it in your legislative agenda, that you need the state to help you find drivers, right? But you want to buy new buses that you don't have anyone to put in the driver's seat. Is it not important enough to you? But you want to use someone else's money to fix your problems first, because you want to use your money to buy switches for your internet. You want to buy shiny new buses. You want to paint some schools. I get it. Those things need to be done. I'm completely aware of what this guy operates under. I do as well. But I think you need to take a good hard look at what's important to you. Unfunded mandates, you address that in your legislative agenda as well. Told you a couple weeks ago, you have an unfunded mandate where the state is requiring you to allow transgender students to use the bathroom of their choice. Fine. But address it with your reversion funds. Remodel
30
those
seconds.
bathrooms to ensure that all students have privacy that they deserve. You can do that with that money. You also haven't addressed the discipline issues in the schools. You should be using some of this money to create a disciplinary officer position in every middle and high school that you have. Discipline in your schools is out of control. And if you don't know that, you need to go talk to some of your teachers. Yet again, you have not
And that
addressed
is
it
time.
with these funds.
Our next speaker is Rich Hannibal, then Dan Chang, and then Paula Chang.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Rich Honeyball. I'm a resident of Virginia Beach, along with my wife and our daughter, who is a junior at the Global Culture and Languages Academy at Tallwood High School. I'd like to start by thanking you for the opportunity to speak this evening in this open forum. We are very vested in our daughter's education. Rarely, though, do we have the extent or feel the need to engage with the school board. That is until a few weeks ago when the subject of eliminating certain books from our schools started to hit the news. This is something that I'm very passionate about, though let me be clear. I do not believe that all books belong in schools. Yes, I do believe there should be a process to determine what is age appropriate. And absolutely, parents should have a say in how our kids are taught and how they read. Which is why I reached out to the school board. I expressed my point of view and asked questions about the process that would be followed to determine the status of the books in questions. I appreciate the response that I received from several of you, and whether the outcome is one that I agree or disagree with, I respect the communication and transparency. I'd like to also call out Ms. Melnick and Ms. Hughes for the personal exchange and dialogue. However, that's not why I'm here tonight. I'm here to say thank you. Thank you to each of you for stepping forward and serving our community as part of the school board. I believe that each of you invest your time not to further some agenda, but to better support our kids and schools. I appreciate your contributions, as I think many do, and the efforts of the entire school department for managing us through what has been one of the toughest times we have faced. While it is perfectly appropriate to question your policies and decisions, it concerns me that your intent and dedication is also being questioned. History may say that schools should have opened earlier or not closed at all, that mask mandates don't work, but make no mistakes. If you had gone in a different direction, the parents that you hear from now, you would have heard from a different group of parents, including me, because I happen to think that they do work. I'd like to say thank you to every principal, librarian, counselor, and most especially thank you to every single teacher in this district who has gone above and beyond to keep our kids connected and engaged. In a normal environment, that is challenging. Teachers dig deep into their personal time and resources. During COVID, you have been nothing short of heroes. The truth is, I'm mad as hell. Our daughter has lost half her high school career to virtual. No sports, no dances, and no clubs. But I'm not mad at anybody in this room. I'm mad at a virus that we knew nothing about, and we're still learning. Despite that, I believe this school district
30
has made a
seconds.
remarkable difference with my daughter. And in listening to the students who have come up and spoken in the last several weeks, you should be proud. I realize that politics can be personal and that passions can spill over. But the personal attacks, the misinformation, the social bullying, more than any word on any page in any book, this behavior sets a poor example for our kids. We're part of the same community. We can disagree, but I would like to think that we can do so with greater empathy and respect for each other. Thank you for the time.
And that is time.
Keep the faith.
Our next speaker is Dan Chang, followed by Paula Chang, and then Kathleen Slindy.
Welcome.
Hi, Ms. Roy. My topic is Facilities Use Permit Update Item 1D. Regarding the parental rights transparency for citizens to exercise the First Amendment rights of freedom of speech and right to assembly and petition. You call it Update to Facilities Use Application, though I have never been able to find the application. I couldn't find the application last night online. The fact this topic is intertwined with 8 school board policy and regulations. Superintendent Spence, hello, I'm right here, sir. I hope you're paying attention because this is just not an application update, sir. These 8 policies and regulations address community use of facilities, eligible organizations, application and approval for use, fees, and liability insurance. Nowhere in these policies and regulations does it address citizens assembling in a public parking lot that we paid for. Ms. Rye, Ms. Melnick, you have delegated to the superintendent the right to refuse in writing any application. Guess who the final appeal authority is? Right, the superintendent. And he is the final decision. He may deny the application for good cause. I don't know what good cause is. It might be something that bothered him that day, a parent pissed him off, so that's a good cause. Ms. Rye, Ms. Melnick, please, you need to take this whole process back to the PRC. The election results of November 2nd was a monumental event for Virginia and etches into history your legacy. We now have a governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general who care about the education of our children and parental rights. The governor-elect promised to ban critical race theory in schools. He will appoint a board of
CRT
education and
is not
state
currently taught in
superintendent
schools.
who ensures CRT doesn't influence curriculum or teachers' professional development programs. He will offer more advanced math, direct the Department of Education to preserve advanced math classes, teach kids to think, not what to think, encourage critical thinking instead of critical race theory, remove politics from the classroom, and teach U.S. history, good or bad. Also, after we started the recall petition, I looked at Attorney General-elect Meares's campaign page, and this is what I found. The closure of schools over the last year has
30
been
seconds.
unconscionable. Over the past year, we have seen the Virginia public school system fail. We have also seen the most vulnerable students struggle in learning with learning disabilities and IEP. He stated he will sue any school district on behalf of parents. Superintendent Spence, he is also investigating in Loudoun County public schools and pornography in schools. Ms. Ryan,
I don't understand what this has to do with anything. His comments, it remains to be seen. I think they made absolutely no sense.
No, I want that here, it's mine. That's my, I would like that back, that was my husband. No, I'm coming to it now because it's what I want, it's mine.
Welcome, please proceed.
I'm not ready to speak yet, so please restart the clock. That is not right. I had to go get something that belonged there that I said was mine.
Yeah, but they didn't start the clock until
Please
after
proceed.
she was already speaking.
She just moved and she cut into my time.
It just was reset, ma'am.
Okay. Well, it didn't look it here. Okay, and since it's interesting, Mrs. Riggs, I wasn't going to do this, but since you cut us off in the parking lot, I want you to know that these are the petitions just turned in tonight, all notarized. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to recognize item 14A4, National School Psychology Week, because quite clearly people need it here. Case in point. Last meeting, not these children, but what's being taught to them. 20 pleasant, bright students came to speak. They spoke with us outside and mentioned that they think social issues, not things like STEM, science, technology, and engineering and math, are important. When we discussed with them the need for the future, for the country, for economics, for themselves, they dismissed it, as great as they were. So I ask, what has happened to the minds of our children in our schools if the best and brightest don't really understand what it's going to take to compete in society and what is actually going on in the schools? Not surprising, though, when the school board vice chair considers the educational hill she'll die on not to be STEM or challenging math curriculum, but instead to be the racial healing handbook. And that is why, Ms. Melnick, it is so appropriate that your political career seems to have ended last week on that hill. Dr. Spence plays also the mind warping game. The critical race theory is not in our curriculum. Though we all know he says neuroscience proves that racism is inherent. Other leadership in our schools have that same view of racism, as in his Equity and Inclusion Committee, run by Dr. Parrott and the school board members, Ms. Owen and Felton, last year when they released a draft policy in 2020. This policy defines race as, and this is their draft though, quote, a social construct that artificially divides individuals into distinct groups based on characteristics such as their physical appearance, basically their color of their skin, and says scientists agree that there are no biologic or genetic basis for racial categories, though they don't offer proof for that. They also defined racism as prejudiced thoughts and discriminatory actions based on a difference in race or ethnicity, usually by white European descent groups against persons of color. That's vile stuff. This actually does, Dr. Spence, defy neuroscience, unless you can show me where neuroscience proves that white people only are racist. Well, when you hear that stuff in your schools, I say, bring on the psychologists. The last need for psychologists, the Wednesdays off.
30 seconds.
Teachers are under anxiety, and so they need Wednesdays off. And I say to this must be because they have to administer inappropriate tests to students. Volunteers are denied access to the buildings or were. Teachers are they are afraid to speak what they think. They're forced to teach things they don't like, CRT, SEL, ask students their gender preference, monitor mask usage, worry about vaccine to keep their jobs. all anxious because of the policies of this board and the policies of this
that is time.
superintendent. You have failed.
Our next speaker is
Add them
Kathleen,
to the pile.
and that speaker is Kathleen Slindy,
Oh, my sign. Thank you.
Teresa Salud, and then Annie Palumbo.
Welcome. Good evening. My name is Kathleen Slindy. I serve as the president of the Virginia Beach Education Association. I want to thank you for listening for when employees requested more planning time. Hopefully, the Wednesday early release dates will provide that. Tonight, I want to speak to you about the budget and some current needs that might help get and keep our schools fully staffed. First, of course, compensation is always a top concern for employees. School employees' salaries and wages in Virginia are simply not competitive with others in the country. ABC News reported in August 2021 that when comparing teacher wages to other occupations requiring comparable education, Virginia ranks 50th in the country, only beating Washington, D.C. This is important since we have a shortage of qualified teachers across the nation. Even those who would normally continue to teach when they could possibly retire are now leaving the profession. School counselors, nurses, psychologists, administrators, and other professionals like speech and occupational therapists are leaving along with teachers. We are also in need of support personnel. Our teaching assistants, bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria, and maintenance staff are all looking to see where they can go and earn a better living. These employees have choices, and those districts that are offering a better living will get them. But there are other factors in keeping our employees here. Virginia Beach is a very attractive place to live and raise a family, so employees want to be able to make it work here. One way to do that is involve those who do the work in the decision-making process. What are the big things that would help keep it and attract and keep employees here? No one knows the answers to that better than your employees. Having a seat at the decision-making table makes a difference. A quick list of current issues affecting employees and our list of asks for tonight are these. 1, adjust the pacing. The pace of instruction is too fast. Students' needs are too great to move at the normal pace. Allow some more flexibility here as you have done in the past. 2, find a way to lower the too high class loads and case loads. They are unsustainable. Being able to provide the quality of instruction and care for their students is important to employees for their sense of well-being and for job satisfaction. 3, provide consistent and clear communication across the district that values and respects all employees. This is especially important in the area of discipline referrals and additional requirements, trainings, and duties. And number 4, involve the stakeholders in the decision-making before implementing changes. Classroom and school workers know the impact it will have on the daily schedule and actually how it plays out in the school day. These are our asks to you at this time. Adjust the pacing. Find a way to lower the class and caseloads, and the flexible spending or
30
scheduling
seconds.
model seems like it might be a start to do that. Work to have consistent, clear communication. Involve the stakeholders in the decision-making before implementation. No one who has put in their effort, time, money, and heart into working with students wants to have to leave this district. Let's find a way to keep them here. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Teresa Salud, then Annie Palumbo, then Tara Chang.
Welcome.
Hello. You have been weighed on the scales and found not good enough, especially Kimberly Melnick, who lost to Glenn Davis in the 84th District House of Delegate race. Parents have unionized against the liberal indoctrination of CRT, SEL, culturally responsive theory, equity, divisive race theory, or any other synonym or wordplay some school members want to use to throw off the parents. Parents voted for high-class
CRT
education
is
to
not
return to
taught
Virginia
in
by voting for
schools.
Youngkin, Winsome, Miyares, and flipping the House of Delegates. A resounding no has been clearly stated by the vast majority of the Virginia citizens that sexually illicit content will be removed or at least garner parental consent from the English curriculum in school libraries. Believe it or not, some parents would like to keep their children innocent for as long as possible. I'm not ignorant to the ugly behaviors that are prolific in life, such as bullying, rape, molestation, human sex trafficking, gang violence. Parents have the right to determine when their child is exposed to such topics. We are not helicopter parents either. I know that my child and every young child is going to be exposed to bullying fairly early on. I know some children don't get the love and attention they need at home for them to feel confident around their peers. So they take aggressions out on weaker and non-confrontational peers. This saddens me. I have experienced bullying or intimidation when I was young and as an adult. I have experienced it here recently in this room by Rye and Melnick. The disrespect from Anderson, Holtz, Owens, Felton, and Riggs walking off their raised platform where they believe they are all smarter than the rest of the community. In the words of President Ronald Reagan, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. This speech was delivered while the country was grappling with the threat of communism and other foreign adversaries, all while civil rights and other domestic issues were taking center stage at home.
30 seconds.
Years later, we haven't learned. We have been complacent. This is going to change because I'm inspired to be vigilant in the community so that freedom is never eradicated on my watch. My child will also learn this and pass it down.
Our next speaker is Annie Palumbo, then Tara Chang, then Kathleen Brown.
Welcome.
Good evening. Trinace, did you take that sign from Mrs. Chang? Get off your phone.
Please proceed and engage.
He just took a sign. That's inappropriate. Anyway, I'm watching. If you turn that camera off of me again from books that are in our libraries, we're watching it. You're in big trouble. Don't do it. These books are in our libraries. And guess what? I got another one today. So anyway, Dottie, I just saw you taking pictures of speakers. You're a bully. Trinace, you're a bully for taking a sign. And you called all of the moms fighting for the books that are in our schools Karens. You think it's funny? It's not funny. There's nothing funny about what you're doing to our kids. Nothing.
Wow, this is...
I'm sick of it. You get on social media at night and bully all the parents. Over it.
Kindly keep your voice down.
Finally keep my voice down while she bullies us. Oh, so you do it with a smile and do things behind the scenes. I'm mad. I'm a mom and I have every reason to be mad. No wonder we won the election. No wonder Tuesday was a bloodbath, as they said. We've had enough. And I thank the parents in Virginia. There were lines at the polls to sign the recall petition. Lines. People said, we've heard about this. Where do we sign? You know, we have a new governor, but I'm like, we're still going to fight the masks. That's my passion. Why? The numbers are way down. Why are the kids in masks? I saw
The numbers
two
are
teens
down
this
because
weekend.
of the masks.
They were afraid to take their masks off outside of school because their whole faces, they had porcelain skin. They were broken out in acne. Yet, you're all going to leave here tonight and take your masks off, aren't you? You are. I know you are. There's no reason. I want to know why, with all the money you guys got for CARES, to purify, there's all these air purification systems in the schools, and why are the kids still wearing masks? You spent probably millions of dollars on putting air purification systems in our schools. Our kids are still wearing masks. So in case the public does not know, we have over $100 million left of the CARES money. Give that money back to the people, the taxpayers. Give it back. Parents were very inconvenienced when you guys shut schools down for what? A year? I don't even remember.
30 seconds.
Anyway, we're not going to shut up. You can't muzzle us like you can muzzle the kids. And this parking lot thing, we're not going to stop. We're just gaining traction. And you know what? I have every reason to raise my voice. I try to be nice to you guys, but you know what? When I see you act like a child and take her
All right,
sign,
this is not
you are horrible. You're
in
horrible.
accordance with
You're all getting recalled. We've got a stack this big, and it's going to get bigger.
decorum.
And you're going to be gone because elections have consequences.
And that is time. Our next speaker is Tara Chang, then Kathleen Brown, then Amber Thompson.
While we respect what strength each group brings to our society, perhaps it is time to teach what unifies us. Who best to highlight what unifies us but our Lieutenant Governor-elect, first Black Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears.
us, and we must not let that happen. They would like us to believe we are back in 1963 when my father came. We can live where we want. We can eat where we want. We own the water fountains. We have had a black president elected not once but twice, and here I am living proof.
That black president was also a Democrat. Just to
Because education
fact check this.
lifted my father out of poverty, education lifted me out of poverty. Education will lift us all out of poverty because we must have marketable skills so that our children can not just survive, but they will thrive. And they will create generational wealth. That's what this is about.
And so I want to say to all the young Black, Asian, Hispanic, Muslim, and white little girls in a world full of Kamala Harris's, be Winsome Seals. Have a good night.
I
Our
don't know
next
what she
speaker
was
is
trying to say
Kathleen
with that.
Brown, Amber Thompson, and then Victoria Cantrell.
Welcome.
All right. So most of you guys are looking at me. Miss Owens, I'm over here. You guys, I would have spent my time writing a nice speech, but instead I made bullet points because every time I get up here, none of you guys actually look at me. So I'm glad to see that all of you, except for Mrs. Owens still, are looking at me. Thank you, Mr. Spence. I'm glad you're not writing tonight. I want to let everybody know, especially you, Miss Riggs, since you were scrolling through your emails, your text messages, while I'm sitting 6 feet away from you behind you last meeting. This is what Miss Riggs thinks of the parents speaking at meetings. If I can get it to play.
I might be drunk by then, but whatever.
So I would have thought that you would want to redeem yourself, but I guess you didn't. Miss Rye, your job is to keep the school board in order in this meeting. I would like you to go forward and do that, please.
That seemed out of context.
I want to say that this facility use permit, I believe it's a First Amendment rights infringement. I'm not sure that you have jurisdiction. I think that there's an intent to lessen the amount of dissent in the school board, and I have a big problem with that, a big problem. So moving on. If I were city council, I would want to legally distance myself from you guys as well. There's a lot of chatter online about this book. Dottie, you love this book, don't you? I find it really interesting because it's hard to follow, and it does include sexual acts. And I actually have more than one college degree, and I had a great deal of trouble following it. It is not appropriate. Not
I'd
appropriate
like to
for
see
12th
that college
graders.
degree.
I have done college courses. This type of literature was never in my college courses. And also, it uses the N-word, in as in Nancy, at least 5 times before I stopped counting. If you guys don't have a problem with the N-word, I don't know why on earth you guys are giving us so much trouble. And moving on, and I know I'm jumping all over, but there's a lot to talk about, only a little bit of time. I think that you all owe it to the parents, the citizens, as far as House Bill 257 is concerned, which allows you all to not report assault or sexual assault, especially after you pass what's known as the
30
transgender
seconds.
policy, to what exactly your plans are when there is a sexual assault or assault and as you're planning to report it. And I do not have time to talk about the budget resolution, but I emailed you all. I have gotten a reply from one of you. Since you're voting on it tonight, I would like to think that you guys read your emails, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, you all need to resign if you're not interested in dissent, and that's what I have to say.
And that is time.
And you need to fire Spence.
Our next speaker is Amber Thompson, Victoria Cantrell, and Leslie McGuire.
Welcome.
Hi. I'm here tonight to discuss a couple of issues, but most importantly would like to start with board member decorum. I've complained and addressed you all in meetings multiple times how unprofessional a number of board members' actions are, specifically on social media. You hold us to these standards that you do not hold your own board to. With a snap of your finger, you can have parents removed for speaking off topic, yet you stand by board members such as Dottie Holtz, who slanders parents and constituents daily. You stand by your own superintendent, who is unlawful and speaks out of line to city council, so it's no wonder the same behavior is allowed time and time again. Most recently, Ms. Holtz has likened parents to Karens, claiming we are intentionally deaf, blind, and crazy. When complaints are brought forward to her, rather than having an open mind, she utilizes personal attacks, such as a constituent who had a failed run for office previously. This was brought forward to your governance committee, which coincidentally is run by you, Mrs. Rye, so did my complaint really ever have a fair shot? The perception here is bad. You've recently limited our time to speak, shut us out of meetings, and now are pulling the plug on the peaceful gatherings in the parking lot before. Again, you already push us outside, and now we can't even stand together outside, so what is next? On top of that, members like Dottie Holtz continuously laugh in our faces, claiming our efforts to push back on any of this are worthless and merely a nice nighttime story to tell our great-grandkids. The disrespectful analogies by Ms. Holtz, as well as egging on others to partake in her elementary dialogue, are appalling. I'm honestly shocked that this woman is in charge of making decisions for my 5-year-old. I would never want that to be the example my child looks up to. Until you hold this board to the same standards you hold us to, or even the code of ethical and professional conduct you all agreed to, that perception will not change. Your beliefs may represent the majority of the board, but you do not represent the majority of us. I hope last week's election was a stark reminder that we, parents, do not agree with your decisions. The majority of us that come to speak and send emails to you voice opposition, yet time and time again you felt for your gain instead. Please use this time to reflect on the current trajectory of the school board and the behavior you continue to stand by and do nothing about, to include Dr. Spence. Lastly, I'd like to touch on the issue of mask mandates in schools. I was promised mask breaks, among other things, and my child comes home daily complaining about the trouble he has breathing in it. He is forced to wear it in PE while exercising and or dancing. I was told this by the administration that when 6 feet apart and doing physical activity, they would be able to take them off. That has not been the
30
case.
seconds.
In closing, Dottie, I understand that you have stated you don't plan to run for re-election, therefore you're able to show your true colors to us parents. I just hope that with that you instead remember that if you can be anything, to be kind. After all, that is the quote you publicly came to live by. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Victoria Quintral, Leslie McGuire, and then Amy Solares.
Welcome.
Good evening. Today I am going to discuss my concerns on the banning of books. I believe the books are inappropriate for minors, and especially within a school setting. These books contain inappropriate, sexually explicit context. Some of the books even contain pornographic images. I think most parents should be concerned, and members of this board should be concerned, and that they would allow any distribution of pornography in our schools. I think most would agree that it does not matter whether it is 2 men, 2 women, or a man and a woman. All pornography should not be in our schools, and it should be removed
Does this
immediately.
mean they don't want
School
50
is not
Shades
the
of Grey in the
place
schools?
to explore sexual content. One book I really found disturbing was the book The Bluest Eye. I won't even go on to quote the passage in this book, as it was already deemed too inappropriate for a school board meeting. But it was not considered, but it was still considered appropriate for our school children to read. The passage was about a father raping his daughter in very explicit and disgusting detail. I was even more horrified to find out that this book was an assigned reader for a high school English class. I voiced my concerns along with others in a Facebook group where Ms. Holtz admits to buying all 3 of the books mentioned in the banning. She also goes on to say that she read the offensive passages in their full context. I go to ask Ms. Holtz, so you read these books, were fully aware of the content, and you find it acceptable in our schools. What grade levels have access to this book and others mentioned? Her reply, and I quote, was, "I never read the books until a bunch of Karens asked for them to be banned. I bought all 3 of the titles to see why they won literary prizes. Clearly, you did not read anything except for a few passages that someone else quoted. It does not glorify PED, quite the opposite, end quote. I find it ridiculous that Ms. Holtz considers concerned parents Karens, especially as a member of this board that is supposed to uphold professionalism and conduct themselves in a professional manner on all public communication.
30 seconds.
Would see fit to insult and degrade concerned parents of the school district. I would like to raise one main concern I have with this book. This book within our schools is that you consider the children within your walls that have experienced sexual trauma. This could seriously cause them re-traumatization. I hope you do consider those students within your walls when finding this content acceptable. This book should be...
All right, so
And that is time.
the low number of students that would be
Our next
traumatized
speaker
by this
is Leslie
are more
McGuire,
important
Amy
than
Solares, and
transgender
then Bobby
students.
Malati.
So they're using the same
Welcome.
Hey, thanks. My
Same
name's
argument that
Leslie,
they're trying to
and
argue
I have a
against
letter
for something
that
else.
my 9-year-old, she's in elementary school, she spoke it and I wrote it, and I just want to read it and let it speak for itself. It says, "Dear School Board, I would like to suggest that school should be more than just learning, but almost like a playground. Why I'm saying this is because in my classroom, I've noticed that more than one student has fallen asleep, so it's not just one. And to me, that is not the students' fault that are falling asleep. It is the way that the teachers are teaching. How I would like to make this different is by letting the students interact with whatever the teacher is teaching. That includes crafts, Kahoots, and Nearpods. What I'm saying is let school be more interesting so students will want to come back and not be mad that they have to go back to school. And also
That's a
letting the students
good
talk and
suggestion.
share whatever they want to say, even if it is off topic.
But you also have
And
to
also, what I've
take
noticed
into
is
account
that the
whether or
teacher
not the
isn't
students are
interacting
actually
with the
getting
students as
proper
much.
sleep.
So I would like for me and other students as well to be able to have fun with the teacher, not just with the students. For example, having recess to play with the teacher as well. So basically, what I'm saying is school should be more fun and exciting for kids and not just
Recess
sitting
is
down listening
also
to
a
a
time
teacher.
for teachers to actually get a break.
Our next
still,
speaker
I-
is Amy Solares,
that isn't
Bobby
a
Maletti,
horrible
and John
suggestion.
Beatty.
There's just some minor issues with it.
Welcome.
Hi. Okay. Good evening. I want to first suggest you bring back the designations of valedictorian, salutatorian, and class rankings to Virginia Beach City Public Schools. At a time when you should be empowering our children with knowledge, confidence, and an education, you're instead training our children to be victims and dependent. You're taking away the ability of all children to advance at their own level, whether it be gifted or average or remedial, in your pursuit for equity. Your focus on taking away parental rights is clear in the closing of the seats in these board meetings, making us continue to wear the mask regardless of the actual science and studies, cutting back our time to speech, making it difficult for us to meet in the public parking lot, which our tax dollars support, and the numerous surveys given to our children. For those of you who haven't read the surveys, please listen to some of the questions given to our students in K through 12 schools. How much do you feel like you belong at your school? Some people describe themselves as transgender when their sex at birth does not match the way they think or feel about their gender. How do you describe yourself? Have you been physically forced to have sexual intercourse when you did not want to? During the past 12 months, how many times did anyone force you to do sexual things you did not want to do? During your life, how often has there been an adult in your household who tried hard to make sure your basic needs were met? Have you lived with someone who was depressed, mentally ill, or suicidal? During the past 30 days, how often was your mental health not good? During the past 12 months, how many times did someone you were dating or going out with force you to do sexual things you did not want to do? During the past 12 months, how many times did someone you were dating physically hurt you on purpose? Has an adult or a person at least 5 years older than you ever made you do sexual things you did not want to do? During your life, has a parent or other adult in your home sworn at you, insulted you, put you down, hit, beat, kicked, physically hurt you, slapped, hit, kicked, punched, or beat each other up? During the past 12 months, how many times did you do something to purposely hurt yourself without wanting to die, such as cutting or burning yourself on purpose? During the past 12 months, have you been tested for a sexually transmitted disease
30 seconds.
other than HIV, such as chlamydia or gonorrhea? Have you ever seriously considered attempting suicide? If you did, what was your plan? Please tell me where these questions fit in a public school classroom lesson. These topics are sensitive. Parents should determine when our children are exposed to these things. Parents, do not let anyone tell you CRT is not in Virginia schools. It is. And these questions are these SEL,
I'd like
which
them
is
to
the
prove
start
that
of the
CRT is in
Thank you.
Virginia schools. I'd love
Our
to
next
get some
speaker
proof
is
of
Bobby
that,
Malati,
and then I
then
will
John
apologize for
Beatty,
saying
and
that it's not.
Aiden Jackson.
Welcome.
Good evening, especially to those people who, my former colleagues. I wanted to give you a Reader's Digest version of my experience at the polls last Tuesday. I was passing out literature for a candidate for General Assembly. Others were doing the same thing for their candidates. It was still dark. A woman arrived and began to set up a table. She planted a sign which named some of you personally. On the table were several clipboards. Each of the school board members that they were looking to recall had their own clipboard. Initially, there was little interest. However, as dark turned into light, folks began inquiring as to what this was. As the morning progressed, it was interesting to observe who was lining up to sign the petitions. It wasn't just parents, although they were certainly well represented. The bulk of the signatories were older, perhaps grandparents. Many had come from other precincts where the petitions were not available. They took the extra time to make sure that their voices were heard. No one was loud or obnoxious, but all appeared determined. It was as though these seniors in particular viewed themselves as perhaps the last line of defense between the changes that they viewed as detrimental and what they believed they had defended all their lives. The two gals at the table had a difficult time keeping up with the numbers of folks waiting to sign. When I left at 11 o'clock, I ventured to say that at least 100 people had signed each one of these petitions. These people were angry. It was obvious to me that they felt ignored. They felt marginalized, exasperated. As someone who has sat where you are sitting, I have to believe that the citizens are not satisfied with the representation that they are getting from this board. They don't believe that they are being heard and that their concerns are addressed. They are speaking to you in the only way they know how, and it's by raising the decibel level, hoping that that will prompt you to pay attention. They are using unconventional words and sign language out of desperation. Please look past the unconventional.
30 seconds.
And hear what they are saying. They have far more at stake than anyone else, the welfare of their children. They may not always be right, but they always care. We are all experiencing a huge paradigm shift. Change has become normal, and we're uncomfortable with that. We need, even though it's not in your job description, we need you to help navigate the choppy waters that cause these changes. You're our only court of appeals. Thank you.
And that is time. Our next speaker is John Beatty, Aiden Jackson, and Absalom O'Neill.
All right, good evening. As you all know, there was an election last Tuesday, and in Virginia Beach, the numbers swang like 12 points from one side to the other. The reason that happened is because of this school board here in Virginia Beach.
No, that's
reflect,
not why.
do any of you think you would have been reelected last week? And as you are skeptical about that, you might think, well, maybe the parents don't understand, or maybe the voters don't know the time and the effort and the work and the amount of stuff that you guys do. But you're wrong. This group of parents, this group of voters We know more about the inner workings of the school board than we ever have before because of what's gone on and what's going on. There are more people tuning in. There's more people reading the minutes. There's more people engaged in the issues. We are very aware of what all has been gone on to our kids for the last 2 years. The closures, the masking of the kids, virtual learning day, virtual learning year, CRT, SEL, no higher math, canceling all the kids' events, no valedictorians, half days count as full days, vaccines for kids or for if they want to be athletes, the parents are terrorists. All across the board, time after time after time, you guys have been wrong. And what it has resulted in, 10,000 students have left the Virginia Beach system. The test scores are horrid. Now, can't get enough teachers to teach in the system, or they can't do they're holding all the job. So what we're left is, like, how do we come out of this? This group, all of you, you do not have the backing of the students. You don't have our support. You don't have our confidence that you're able to go forward and do better. So I think what most people think right now is we need to move on from this chapter of the Virginia Beach School Board and this chapter of Virginia Beach schools. Now, nobody's perfect. We all have flaws. But when your flaws harm this institution, it is time to have the grace to go.
Our next speaker is Aiden Jackson, Absalom O'Neill, Tim Butt.
Welcome.
Thank you. Esteemed school board members and concerned parents and residents of Virginia Beach, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak before you today. I do not plan to take up too much of your time, but I am very troubled, to say the least, about recent discussions regarding teaching history in our classrooms and quote-unquote critical race theory, whatever the heck that is. I'm troubled, to say the least, at how what was once a fringe white nationalist talking point has now become the Republican Party's key issue to win back suburban voters. If learning about the history of racism accurately makes me a hater of all things American, call me a communist. It's better than being a racist. I'm troubled to say that the same people who get their news from Fox News and Facebook want to have a say in public education. No, thank you. The idea that white children are being taught to hate themselves, the idea that somehow children are being indoctrinated in the classroom. I mean, do you realize how ridiculous some of you people sound? The only radical indoctrination of our kids is coming from far-right activists who want children to only be exposed to their whitewashed version of history where America was once great. But as we've become more open and tolerant and progressive, our greatness has somehow faded away. A lot of white people are scared that learning about or even acknowledging the existence of systematic racism will somehow implicate them as racist. But it's the opposite. To deny its existence is what implicates you as a racist. The same group of people who fought so hard against bringing down Confederate monuments for fear of erasing our history are now trying to erase history lessons in school because they are scared it will make them look bad or something. Let me make this clear. To deny or to block out key parts of our history because you are scared of how it will influence public opinion if they knew the truth, then you are no better than the book burners of Nazi Germany. School board members, do not buy into this trumped-up, racially motivated dog whistle or bow down to this mob. They are just scared of a rapidly changing and diversifying country that is finally waking up. They are scared that their old and outdated ways of life are under attack, because they are. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Absalom O'Neill, then Tim Butt, then Janelle Mans.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. I spoke here a while back before Corona hit. I'm here to speak on behalf of lacrosse as a high school sport. I call myself a Swiss Army knife when it comes to being a speaker because I am a teacher, a coach, a parent, and a player at 52 years old. Okay. I've been teaching at Kempsville High School for 22 years, and I've been in Virginia Beach schools for 27 years. For all those 27 years, I've wished for this to happen. The reason being because lacrosse is so much more than just a sport. It's called the medicine game for a reason. And from a personal standpoint, it saved me when I was when I was finally able to make lacrosse a possible sport at Kempsville High School. Lacrosse is a sport where you don't have to be the biggest to be good at the sport. Myself, for example, to consider. And the kind of people that I brought in were people that had never played an organized sport before in their life. My first year that I coached, I had a German exchange student. The following year, I had an exchange student from Spain. Ocean Lakes has an exchange student from Spain this year. Okay, we get some of the fringe kids, the kids that haven't been going through the same sport year after year after year, and they can pick up a new sport. Okay, it's been nice that we've been able to give it to them, but we've also had to scrounge on offer up and get donations from people so that we can give the kids equipment to play with. Okay, I personally shelled out my own money and I got my sister and my father to sponsor players so that they could play. Okay, so it makes sense to make this sport available for boys and girls in Virginia Beach so that they can. You ask why another sport? Like I mentioned before, lacrosse is different than that. Okay, it's much more than just a sport. It's also a culture. Making it a high school sport just makes it make sense so that I and other people in the Virginia Beach school system can offer it in a more broad range to people of all backgrounds to experience the sport that I love to this day. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tim Buck, then Janelle Manns, and Troy Jones.
Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairperson Rye, Vice Chair Melnick, and other board members. My name is Tim Buck. I'm the president of the Cox Boys Lacrosse Club. Thank you for allowing me to come before you this evening to provide my concise comments on lacrosse in Virginia Beach high schools. Our family's been associated with lacrosse for over 16 years, and it's been a wonderful ride. The wins, the losses, the experiences we've had as a family, making new friends has been amazing. Unfortunately, this opportunity is not available to everyone, but could be available to more families through tonight's actions. I could stand here and say, establishing lacrosse as a VHSL sport in our community would validate its presence with college coaches who recruit players in our area. In time, yes, that would occur. But that statement overlooks the greater opportunity we have. This evening is about a positive initiative for every Virginia Beach student, which is in line with No One Left Behind. And we are grateful, so grateful, you have taken a serious consideration for this initiative. Through sports teams, I believe we would all agree, we've seen the development of our children not only as athletes, but also as individuals. Yes, this currently occurs for lacrosse in today's club setting, where individuals grow through participation in civic-based community service events. Lacrosse players have a passion for giving back to the community, which is derived, I think, from the sport's humble beginning and the individuals who play the sport. Think of the large impact to the student body of our high schools as lacrosse transitions to VHSL. Students will see firsthand the impact these players are making in their communities, the excitement that they generate as they grow as leaders and individuals. And the greater student body will also want to become involved. Establishing lacrosse as a VHSL sport carries great potential to positively impact the student body of our schools. Tonight's decision is not only the first step
30
in
seconds.
growing the game, but also means to engage the student body of our high schools, in turn paving the way for future community growth with you, Virginia Beach City Public Schools, setting the example for all of Hampton Roads. Thank you for your time and your support.
The next speaker is Janelle Manns, then Troy Jones, then Joseph Fitzgerald.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm not much of a public speaker, but this is something that really touches me and I want to highlight. And I know it's a controversial book, but I want you to hear me out. I do not feel that the book, The Bluest Eye, is suitable to be used as curriculum reading material for children under the age of 18, and I am asking for its immediate suspension until further review based on the following. The book contains adult themes such as racism, hard profane language, graphic, persistent violence and abuse, graphic sexual violence to include rape, incest, and child molestation narratives. I
And
also would
so
like to
does
add
television.
the
Let's
important
span
note
all
that
of
this
that
book
too, as
has
well.
embedded an inset narrative, which means when a child reads this book, it is not only from the third person, it is from the first person. So a statement such as, "She has been raped," turns into, "I have been raped." I will preface with some statistics from RAINN.org, known as Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. By the age of 18, 1 in 4 women have been the victim of rape, incest, molestation, sexual abuse, assault, and unwanted sexual contact. In a classroom of 32 students, that is 25% of the classroom if it is equally comprised of males and females. Of those survivors, 48% of the crimes happened at home and 7% were at school.
I don't see
34%
how
of victims
banning a
are
book
under the age
will
of 12, with
do anything about this.
66% of victims being between the age of 12 to 17. Within the age range to be reading this book based on a reading lexile, and less removed from incidents. Fact, the book's character, Pecola Breedlove, is raped in her home. There are children like Pecola. This is not just fiction. What permits you, in the name of literary studies, to actively engage crime-exposed children? How are you identifying these children? Do you notify parents? How do you protect these children specifically? Are teachers trained to observe and/or counsel these children's reactions or experiences to perhaps some of these children's first exposure to sexually violent and graphic passages, but moreover, to children who have already experienced these traumas? Given the statistics and the potential negative emotional
30
states in these
seconds.
children, do you feel that you have adequate counseling staff to support any damage inflicted on these children by exposing them to this abhorrent content, a repeat secondary trauma? If not, then it's like picking a scab, and they are going to bleed out if you are not prepared to support them. So you want to keep the book, be prepared to keep the book, and the fallout from keeping the book. Thank you.
Next speaker is Troy Jones, then Joseph Fitzgerald. Speaker number 24 has not checked in, and then will be Virginia Wassenberg.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Troy. I was concerned about the mask because it affects the children greatly. There was a worker that worked in confined spaces, and he had a meter. He put it in front of his mouth without the mask, and no problems. He put the mask on, put the hose behind the mask, and within a few seconds, the meter went off. Now, we have those kind of meters that work bigger than the handheld ones. But when that alarm goes off, it's a piercing alarm, and that means you're supposed to get out. Or if the mask is on, you want to take it off because it's poisoning the kids. It gets bacteria in the mask, and I worry about the kids.
I'd like him
and,
to show me the scientific
I
studies
don't know
that
how y'all
prove
can
this.
sit there. Jesus is the Lord and King. He's going to come and judge all of us one day. And people in
Public school,
positions of
not
power,
a religious institution.
we're all going to be judged. I don't know how you can sit there and smile. These are children, and the Bible speaks of the children. I think I said last time, Luke 17:2, or better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he cast him to the sea. Then he should offend one of these little ones. The children are important to him. They should be important to you. There should be something in you. I don't know. The mandates, if you go look, one of the parents, the mandates, the mask mandates, the schools do because they're paid. They get paid. You're forcing the children to wear masks. This is America. We should have a choice whether to wear a mask or not wear a mask. To be vaccinated, not to be vaccinated.
Yeah, you have
You're
that choice.
amazing.
You also have the choice to homeschool your child.
We're all going to be judged one day. Truth sounds like hate to those who hate truth. Why? Why do you continue? You have all the voices around here, the unsatisfaction of the parents, the kids. It's about the kids. You should care about the kids. If you're mad at the parents, think about the kids. And know that Jesus is going to judge every one of us one day. It's sad the state of this country. It is sad. You
30 seconds.
You sit in a place of leadership. Be leaders and do what's right. Do what's right for the children. If not for yourself, think of
Health
the
and safety
children.
of them is important.
Not about you. It's about the children. They're very important. It's not funny. If you have a MD, then you name a PhD. If you don't have no common sense, it's no good. No good. Think of the children.
And that is time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joseph Fitzgerald, then Virginia Wassenberg, and Daphne Stack.
Welcome.
Hello, I came today to fulfill my civic duty and try to do my best to hold you accountable to the job I unfortunately elected some of you to do. I'm just a hardworking floor guy that gets to work with a lot of houses and interact with a lot of homeowners, as well as getting to work with a lot of other hardworking guys and gals in the construction industry. And I can tell you that many of these people are fed up with what's going on in our schools. And although not a lot of them are here to speak their mind, they definitely showed up last Tuesday at the polls. Not only did they make it clear which direction we want our schools and our society to turn towards, they also signed a lot of those recall petitions. The people of Virginia Beach have spoken. They do not want CRT in our schools or pornography in our libraries. We need to return to morals and love being taught in our schools and not confusing our children with divisive conversations and confusing rhetoric of pronouns. We are products of our environment, especially children. If we're constantly talking about race, that's what they think about. If we talk about sex all day, that's what they think about. Then you guys send out this survey, leading questions, drugs, sex, race. I can hear all the kids now talking in my head, laughing and bragging to their friends about all their answers. All for what? To justify what your policies and to check on their demographic, which ones they're working on? After seeing this, it almost felt like you guys doubled down. Instead of reading the temp of the state and grabbing the board and trying to catch up on the red wave, instead you're going to stand behind your divisive, immoral practices, even after everyone said no thanks. Kind of reminds me when I was a kid, playing my brother in Mario Kart on split screen. This one time, I was thinking I was winning the whole time, only to find out I was staring at the wrong screen. I'd been slamming into wall after wall. The people have woken up, and they see through your double dips and your slippery tricks. We're here to stand firm and stand up for what is right in God's eyes. This country was established in God we trust, and I believe it's going to stay that way. We will not relent until the board majority listens to the constituents, turns from its divisive practices, stops succumbing to the VDOE and legislation handed down from Richmond. We are watching the money in the present and the past. Dr. 404 over there can't hide everything. This time is time to take reflect and heed the warning calls and do what's right. I believe many of you have been doing what you thought was right, just been misled. Let's get back to working together with the parents, building trust through transparency, and not making more rules and regulations, putting divide between us. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Virginia Wassenberg, and then Daphne Stagg.
Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here to speak on the reversion funds. And I just have a lot of figures in front of me, a lot of papers with that. But before I speak on that, Ms. Owens, I wanted to say thank you for your comments in the workshop concerning the facilities use. I really appreciate that a lot. So let's start with what the school operating fund is, or at least what was approved. And that was $828.8 million was approved by the city council for the school board proposed operating, well, it's operating fund right now. So looking at this resolution, I wanted to know why these things were needed. So someone said, here's the school's operating budget, here's the school's CIP budget, look at it and figure it out. Because nobody up here has told me why these things are needed out of these reversion funds. So I opened the operating budget and I opened the CIP budget and I found most of them right here. These are the CIPs at least. And then I found the operating budget, which is here. Okay, so First of all, the first thing on the list, $11 million for the School Reserve Special Revenue Fund. Well, the City Council gave you $3.9 million. They actually reduced your School Reserve Special Revenue Fund back in May. So I'm not really sure City Council is going to give you $11 million right now, okay? So the next thing that is on the list is $34.4 million to be reappropriated to the CIP fund. And I don't know if you've looked at the CIPs that are listed here, but I have. And then looking at them, I see that in the revenues and replacements, you budgeted in FY, and I'm going to say what you budgeted in FY21, okay? You budgeted 1.5 million. You're asking for 3.5 million more, okay? In the HVAC, you budgeted 2.9 million. I'm sorry, you budgeted 7.2 million. You're asking for 2.9 million more. In the various ones for renovations, you budgeted 2.1 million. You're asking for 6.2 million
30 seconds.
more. All right, I could go on this. But the bottom line here for me is that you budgeted money for these things, all right, out of the $828.8 million, but you didn't use all of that. And I want to know why. Why didn't you use it? Why do you need it now? Explain that to me. Explain that to the public, because until we know that, I can't get behind it.
And that is time.
I'm sorry, just can't get behind it.
Our next speaker is Daphne Stagg. Our next speaker is Daphne Stagg. Okay, Madam Chair, that was our last in-person speaker. We will move on to our online speakers. First speaker is Jerome Bell. Please unmute.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. That was actually going to be nice tonight and just read something from Frederick Bastiat, the law. But many people may not even understand that. But while listening and watching these festivities tonight, which they were because most of you think it's funny and most of you really don't take it serious because you're going to do what you're going to do anyway. We understand this, and that's why we have those recall petitions. But to the leader, I really want to ask you, when you asked that lady Ms. Palumbo, to lower her voice, or, really, who the hell do you think you are? Really, these people are adults, okay? These people are not children, and you're trying to treat them like children.
They're trying to maintain
and to ask
decorum
an adult
in
not to
there.
raise their voice. These people are here to protect their children from the abuse that has been done to them and continue to be done to them. These children are going to have psychological issues as they get older, and these parents are upset. You know why? Because they love their children more than you do. Okay, and everything you have done
as
is
they
really
should.
unconstitutional. Whether it's a mandate, you didn't. The mandates came down or the orders came down from Governor Northam, and they had exceptions, and you never allowed the exceptions. You want to do your own thing. You want to be the dictators that you are. But and some of you are the most disrespectful group of adults I've seen in my life. And by the way, I heard someone mention about the valedictorian. My oldest son, a black son, okay, he graduated Bayside High School as the first black valedictorian and only one of 3 in the history of Virginia Beach Public Schools. How dare you really remove that opportunity from another black child to excel to the height of that feat, okay? Because they use that they cannot do, and to tell them with the CRT stuff that you can't do that, you can't do what a white kid can do because you're black and because they're trying to hold you down. And so you remove the goal so no black or white child can even reach that pinnacle, and they need that sometimes to use to compete for college and for medical schools. If that option, if valedictorian was not available to my son, he may not be a doctor right now because those are competition things.
30 seconds.
Would ask you guys to really bring back valedictorian and salutatorian And I would ask you not to be so smug because all of you sit up there with your mask
Those are
on,
starting to be
you know, and
phased out
push the
anyway.
agenda. And all of you, I've seen all of you out in town or out publicly without your mask on. You know, so let's stop, you know, with the games. Let's stop with the masquerades, end the masking, and end the abuse of these children. And do not disrespect parents because they are adults. Thank you.
Our next speaker, number 2, is not online. We will go to Sarah Gerloff. Please unmute.
Welcome.
Sarah Gerloff, please unmute. We move on to our next speaker, Shay Coleman. Please unmute.
Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Just speak up a little more, please, ma'am.
How's that? Congress
Yeah.
shall, thank you. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Section 12 of the Virginia Constitution echoes the same, and under local,
Congress
city, and
is
town
the
governing explains
keyword.
that whenever the governing body of any such unit shall fail to perform the duties so prescribed in the manner herein directed, a suit shall lie on behalf of any citizen thereof to compel performance by the governing body. So you may know that courts have repeatedly held the authorities aren't justified in breaking up public protest just because they slow traffic, inconvenience pedestrians, are annoying, or make other people mad. Example, Edwards versus South Carolina and Coates versus City of Cincinnati. Based on law, the public square, there's less leeway to restrict demonstrations and other gatherings in places that are traditionally considered public forums for free expression, such as sidewalks, parks, and public squares, than on other types of public property, like military installations, prisons, courthouses, and airport terminals. Limits on size gatherings. Protest size ordinance struck down housing, which was a case, Housing Works Incorporated versus Safar in 2000. As the court pointed out, the ordinance wasn't narrowly tailored to serve the city's legitimate safety concerns, and it could allow city officials to stop people from gathering based on their point of view. Permits. Generally, cities and other governmental bodies, like public universities, are allowed to require groups to get permits for demonstrations, parades, street festivals, and other large gatherings. But courts have struck down these requirements when they impose higher fees or other obstacles linked to the demonstrators' controversial viewpoints and the expected response. And for example, you'll want to look up Forsyth County, Georgia versus Nationalist Movement. So I say to you, are you requiring permits because we pose traffic impediment? Are you requiring a permit because we are keeping people from being able to get to and from their
30 seconds.
Are you requiring a permit because we are causing violence and doing inappropriate things while we peacefully assemble? No, you are not. You are requiring a permit because you do not agree with our views. And that, my friends, goes against our state constitution and federal law. And when
If they
you violate
didn't
federal
agree with your
law,
views
you are
and they wanted to
subject
prevent
to
you, they can just
persecution
mute you
from the
right now.
citizens and the state of Virginia.
And that is time. Speaker 3 is online, so Sarah Gerloff, please unmute.
Welcome.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. It is clear to see from the results of the election and from the thousands of signatures that have been collected to recall 6 members of this board what is of most concern to Virginians. It is their children, what their children are being taught, and how their children are being taught. Virginians are fed up with the behavior on display by certain members,
I don't
as
think
it
parents
is
understand what's
increasingly
being
clear
taught.
you do not have our children's best interests in mind.
As I have stated previously, several of you do not understand the Constitution, meaning you do not comprehend nor do you stand under its authority. You have therefore become the domestic enemies you have sworn an oath to protect we the people from. You are no longer leaders, but instead rulers who make up new rules as we go along in an attempt to control us. The latest rule is not allowing us to peacefully assemble in the parking lot that our tax-paying money has helped pay for. This is yet another First Amendment violation, and it adds to your continually growing rap sheet. Due to your ignorance and stubbornness, you continue to commit crime after crime. No wonder our students are falling behind since they are under the control of ignorant school board members. Some of you have no business sitting in that seat. The longer you sit in that seat and war against the Creator, the hotter that seat will become. You have clearly lost your way and are harming others due to your ignorance and stubbornness and greed. I sent you an email with an article on the sociopath, APATH, empath triad, also known as SEAT, SEAT. I hope you have had time to read it. It clearly depicts what is going on with this school board. Spence plays the role of the sociopath due to his greed. His love of money seems to be his top priority as superintendent. He is out of order. His priorities are not in line. Students first is the proper order. Laura, Vicky, and Carolyn Weems play the empaths. Since they follow common sense and have courage of conviction, they are morally correct. The rest of you are apaths. You are pawns in this game of chess. You go along to get along, are easily manipulated and deceived. Instead of using common sense and thinking, you follow along and jump off the cliff one after the other. You are being played by the sociopath, getting used and abused. Wake up, ladies.
30 seconds.
The longer you follow Spence, the more damage is done, as your decisions affect thousands of innocent children and their families. We, the people, already see the damage done to our children. Just look at the school, the sexual misconduct in Loudoun County, and the direct correlation to the transgender policy that you have also voted to put in place. You are putting our kids in danger. The Creator's army grows by the day. Nothing can stop this train. You are about to get steamrolled because this is the 11th hour.
And that is time. Our next speaker is Daniela Seaford. Please unmute.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, welcome.
Thank you. So last time I signed up to speak, I was up till midnight waiting, and I never got the opportunity, but I appreciate now that it's only 7:30 that I'm speaking on the same subject as I have already emailed all of you regarding wearing masks during PE. The State Health Commissioner, Norman Oliver, as well as the World Health Organization and the CDC all suggest no masks during exercise for various health reasons. On top of the fact that when kids are sweating and their masks get wet, microorganisms start growing on it. Carolyn Rye emailed me back maybe once or twice saying that she felt like no further action was needed, and that's not true because there's only one school that I know of, and that's Great Neck Middle School. Thank you very much to the staff there, that the kids are not wearing masks during PE when they're exercising. If you look at some of these children during PE, they're unhealthy as it is because of COVID, because of what they're eating and putting in their bodies. COVID should be the last thing that they're worried about. And they're exercising, getting their heart rates up, and trying to get their heart rates up with a face that's covered, their nose and mouth are covered. This is unacceptable. You should be following the State Health Commissioner who are doctors, as well as the World Health Organization, as well as the CDC, but yet you're making your own rules. So let it be known that kids should not be wearing masks during PE at all, according to Norman Oliver, our State Health Commissioner. That's one issue I have. The other issue I have is regarding boys going into girls' bathrooms for obvious reasons. I said it from day one, there was going to be a rape somewhere, and yes, it happened immediately. I have a friend whose daughter will not go into the bathroom and not drink any water all day because she doesn't want to be in a boy's bathroom, in a girl's bathroom, worried that a boy is going to walk in on her. But a solution might be get rid of those walls, let all the boys and girls wash their hands together, but create doors that are floor to ceiling, just like they have at the Hilton Hotel or some of the Starbucks in New York, where there is no boy-girl bathrooms. They're just unisex bathrooms, and no one has to be scared to go into a bathroom and worry if they're gonna get raped or not. That is unacceptable and disgusting. As a female,
30
and a very
seconds.
strong one, I would be afraid to go into a bathroom knowing that a man or boy might be in there. The other concern I have is regarding fall sports. I don't understand where the common sense is. The fall sports banquet in the cafe is not okay, but Band Booster Club can have a craft show in the cafe open to the public. We need to really reel it into common sense, please. I really would appreciate that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Pilar Adike. Please unmute.
Hi, yes, I'm unmuted.
Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank Ms. Toniato for doing a great job. And I was supposed to be first speaker and ended up being the last. So tonight, I want to thank each one of you all for being here. I know that, this is going through the agenda. It's a lot of stuff. And I was going to focus on the $54 million that is potentially in a reappropriation fund for the school board and superintendent to allocate. But I just felt like we need to look at this school system and recognize that it is in crisis. And we can all agree there's a shortage of teachers, we're short bus drivers, there aren't enough substitute teachers or homebound tutors, there are more fights breaking out. I'm guessing that there's not police officers in the schools, probably because there's a shortage of police. Much needed parent and grandparent volunteers are blocked from supporting the schools. And, I look at this list of how this money will be used and I'm stunned. But even bigger than that, if we pull out and just look at the dynamic here, this chaos that has been created is intentional. And I want to come to the root cause of it. And here's what we have. We have that most people are still operating under paralyzing fear. Fear that has been fed to us by our elected representatives, fear that has been fed to us continually through the media. And I really want to ask you all, and I'm saying this for our community, you don't need to be afraid anymore. We know the virus has a survivability rate of 99.97% for our children. The majority of you have shown by your actions on the school board that you don't even believe in your own masking up policy. So if you are truly so afraid for the health and safety of everyone, let us truly examine the research, the information, and the science that is out there and consider
You've had a
the
year and a half
efficacy
to
of
do that.
proven medications such as hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, azithromycin, monoclonal antibodies supplemented with zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D.
Wow.
All of this, I truly believe this chaos, aside from other intended consequences, it is designed
30 seconds.
to send our schools into a virtual system. It's not about a dreaded disease. It's about playing on and manipulating people's fears and using that to maximize profit for some, but definitely not for all. Always follow the money. Money for all the COVID protocols in our schools, the mask policy, the push to make the education of our youth virtual. Follow the money. The truth will always come out. And I pray each of you carefully considers which side you are on. We can see who you are.
And that is time.
By your actions. And we are.
Madam Chair,
Wow,
that was
that
our last
was,
speaker for this evening.
Wow.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and for all our speakers this evening. We are now at the information portion of our meeting, and we are beginning with item A, textbook adoption, practical nursing, anatomy, and physiology. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairwoman Rye, Vice Chair Melnick, members of the school board, and Dr. Spence. I'm here this evening to provide you with information regarding the School of Practical Nursing's Textbook Adoption Committee's recommendation for an updated textbook for implementation in the fall of 2022. I would like to thank Family and Consumer Science Coordinator Kathleen Vuno, selection committee members and industry experts for dedicating their time and efforts to recommend the text proposed this evening. The replacement cycle for nursing text is governed by the Virginia Board of Nursing accreditation standards requiring textbooks have a copyright date within 5 years throughout the life of the adopted textbook. Therefore, the adoption process for practical nursing textbooks is conducted more frequently than other courses. The committee has selected Memler's Structure and Function of the Human Body as its first choice. This text meets all of the national standards as well as the Virginia Department of Education's competencies. The chosen text is most appropriate for our practical nursing students and is comprehensive and geared specifically toward nursing students. The physical and online resources also support a more personalized learning environment that students can access on demand. This slide outlines the cost implications for the initial and total implementation of the first choice textbook for both courses. The total cost involved for the first year of implementation is $2,188.80. The total cost for the 5-year implementation with replacements is projected to be just over $2,600. This recommended text meets the needs of the program and the state requirements for accreditation at less than half the cost of the second choice option outlined in your board packet. Thank you for your consideration of the committee's recommendation. With us this evening via Zoom is Kathleen Vuno, Family Consumer Science Coordinator, and we would be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Colleagues? Looks like we're good.
All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
So now we have a list of new courses, and we have Miss Dr. Rogers at the podium.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Chairwoman Rye, Vice Chair Melnick, school board members, and Dr. Spence. This evening, we will be providing you with several new courses and a program in technical and career education and several exciting courses in our fine arts program for your consideration. The courses being presented to you for consideration are in a direct alignment to our goals 1 and 3 of the Compass 2025, where we're planning to increase student access and opportunities for advanced level coursework for our students, as well as to work toward engaging all of our students in rigorous, authentic, and student-centered learning in order to help them to identify their passions and take ownership of their learning. This evening, Dr. Sarah Lockett, who is our Director of Technical and Career Education, will provide you with information on the proposed technical and career education courses and programs, followed by Dr. Nicole DeVries, Director of K-12 Programs, who will provide you with information on the proposed new fine arts courses. With that, Dr. Lockett.
Welcome again.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to provide you with information regarding the proposed addition of new technical and career education courses and dual enrollment pathways. Tonight's presentation focuses on refining technical and career education offerings for high school students and adding some exciting new career-focused dual enrollment opportunities. The first proposed change consolidates 2 semester sequences into year-long courses, providing more flexibility for students and teachers. The 2 proposals that follow will create new dual enrollment career pathways in veterinary assisting and shipbuilding. I would first like to share information about the consolidation of semester class sequences into year-long classes. The proposed course Photography and Communications Technology is a single block, year-long course at all high schools. The course is designed to combine our current semesters of photography and printing and computers and communication technology beginning in the 2022-23 school year. Combining these 2 semester courses will give teachers flexibility in planning instruction and scheduling industry credential testing. While we are proposing to change the structure of the courses, the content will not change. Students enrolled in photography and communications technology will take part in experiences in the fields of imaging technology, graphic production, video and media, technical design, and various modes of communicating information using data and computers. Students develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills and learn about the impact of communication on society and potential career fields relating to communications.
In a parallel model, we also propose combining semesters of parenting and child development and introduction to child care occupations into a year-long course. Again, this is only a structural change intended to grant students and teachers flexibility. The courses will be taught in labs and with staff already in place in the high schools for the 2022-2023 school year. No new expenses are anticipated to support the shift from semesters to a year-long model. Veterinary Science 1 and 2 is a double-blocked, 2-semester, 3-credit course sequence proposed to be taught by faculty from Tidewater Community College on their Virginia Beach campus with transportation to TCC via existing Advanced Technology Center buses. These courses are designed to meet all state regulations and testing for licensed veterinary assistants and will prepare students for a career after high school. The program includes classroom instruction, lab practice, and a coordinated internship. Enrollment is limited to 20 students, and admission will be by application. This slide shows a sample schedule for each semester, with most TCC courses meeting Monday through Thursday. On Friday, students will complete a 1-credit college success skills course during the fall semester, and time is also reserved to meet the internship requirement for the TCC Career Study Certificate. The courses are designed to meet all the state regulations and testing for licensed veterinary assistants. This dual enrollment offering will provide students the opportunity to earn 3 high school credits and at least 17 college credits. Students who complete this 1-year program will earn a career study certificate in veterinary assisting from TCC. This program prepares students to be a licensed veterinary technician. Tidewater Communities College's program is approved by the National Association of Veterinary Technicians in America, NAVTA. Upon graduation, participants are eligible to sit for the national exam and become approved veterinary assistants. Students may transfer the 17 credits from this study certificate into an associate's degree in veterinary technology that leads to licensure as a veterinary technician. And we have one further program to talk about. The second dual enrollment pathway is a joint effort with our industry partners at Newport News Shipbuilding. The proposed program is expected to be offered to high school students in Virginia Beach, Hampton, and Newport News, giving participating students the opportunity to take Newport News Shipbuilding apprentice school classes online from apprentice school faculty during the school day for dual enrollment credit. This program will give enrolled students a leg up on the competition for coveted apprentice school acceptance. Students who complete the program will also shorten the time needed to complete an apprenticeship post-secondary by completing required coursework prior to their high school graduation. The program is slated to begin in the summer of 2022 with 30 seats available to students in participating localities. The table on the screen outlines the semester courses that make up the Apprentice X program for high school students. The left column shows 10 college courses in which students in the program will enroll. The right column shows paired high school courses for which students will also get credit. The students in the 2-year program will earn 39.5 college credits through the fully accredited apprentice school and 9 high school credits. The program is open to rising juniors during the summer before their junior year. Accepted students will be introduced to Newport News Shipbuilding and the apprentice school. They will also concurrently enroll in an introductory course in digital shipbuilding and technology for 1 college credit. During the fall and spring of year 1, students will enroll in a pair of semester classes that meet daily. This schedule will allow students to complete 4 dual enrollment courses online during the first year of the program. Those courses include Drafting, Ship Construction 1, Mathematics 1, and Ship Construction 2. During the summer before the senior year, students in the program will take Mathematics 2 for dual enrollment credit. The program will complete with students taking 4 more classes in a daily block over the course of the student's senior year. In the spring before graduation, students may choose to apply to the apprentice school, transferring the 39.5 hours. They may also choose to transfer 35 of these credits to another institution of higher education, or they may choose to apply for employment with Newport News Shipbuilding. No matter what the student chooses, they have a solid foundation for a career in the shipbuilding industry. The budget impact for each of these proposals is minimal. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, consolidating the high school semester elective courses will not create any additional expenses, as this change will be supported by existing faculty and equipment. The cost to implement Veterinary Science 1 and 2 is also minimal. These dual enrollment courses will be taught on campus by TCC faculty. Enrolled students and their families will be responsible for dual enrollment fees for the course. The cost to students is estimated to be $765, split over 2 semesters, $360 in the fall, $405 in the spring. Books, resource materials, and other ancillary expenses are estimated to be $4,000 per year and will be covered within the existing budget for technical and career education and the Carl D. Perkins grant. All costs associated with the Apprentice X program will be covered by Newport News Shipbuilding. We are excited about this community partnership. And also the partnerships with higher education that will help provide these opportunities for students. I believe we'll now welcome Nicole DeVries.
Thank you, Dr. Lockett. Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
I'm here this evening to present information about several new courses, the first of which at the high school level that I'm seeking your approval for. This particular course, and where's the clicker? Old habits die hard. This particular course, Advanced PE, Unified Physical Education, would be an additional course to the existing Advanced PE pathway for 11th and 12th grade students. Unified Physical Education is unique in that students with varying abilities will work together as they participate in lifetime activities such as pickleball, yoga, and circuit training. In addition, students will collaborate on special projects that promote emotional wellness, inclusion, and community service. Students will also explore career paths related to what they are learning in this course, including therapeutic recreation and careers working with special populations. The idea for this class was originated by VBCPS high school health and PE teacher Jen Vetter, who is with us today, as part of the VBCPS Innovation Network. This network committed to supporting selected teacher projects that reinforce the graduate profile and had the potential to be scaled. Ms. Vetter's project, the Unified Health and Physical Education Project, focused on work with Special Olympics Virginia and her unified track and field team at Bayside High School. This project was the catalyst for wanting more inclusive opportunities built into the school day for all students to be able to work on skills such as being personally and socially responsible, communication and collaboration, and learning how to solve real-world problems that were relevant to them. There are no additional costs associated with the implementation of this course, as PE departments already have the equipment needed. No additional staffing allocations are anticipated. This slide shows a sample of the sequence of health and PE coursework that is now available to 11th and 12th grade students following the approval of several other advanced PE options by the school board in 2019. These courses included personal fitness, recreational activities, and the certified personal trainer course. The proposed addition of unified physical education that you see included on this slide is paired with recreational activities. The next course proposals are actually a series of courses focusing on digital media and design, switching over to fine arts now, to expand the visual arts program offered at the high school level. These courses have been developed together to create an additional upper-level pathway for students interested in pursuing art in their 10th through 12th grade years, and includes the addition of another advanced placement option for students. This pathway is an important way for students to engage in contemporary art production and exhibition, as well as to develop the skills necessary to succeed in career fields that correspond to such skill sets. School divisions around the state, such as Norfolk, Newport News, Henrico, and Chesterfield counties, have had similar course pathways through their art departments for several years, preparing students to succeed in college and university programs that focus on digital art design. The addition of these courses in VBCPS will offer a much-needed area of study for our students who want to continue their art education at their comprehensive high schools. So the first course proposal is to implement Art 2, Digital Media and Design, at our comprehensive high schools. In this course, students will examine the history and function of technology in art while creating their own body of work using imaging applications. Digital media and design courses will use iMac labs to simulate the environment of a traditional visual arts studio. This course will expose and build the skills and techniques necessary for a student to continue down a digital art career path. Art 2 Digital Media and Design is intended for students in 10th grade and up, and Art 1 Art Foundations is the prerequisite course. Art 3 Digital Media and Design builds upon the foundations laid in Art 2, which is the prerequisite for this particular class. In Art 3, students will engage more deeply in the practical side of graphic design, exploring commercial uses and products. They will create conceptual art, focusing on how artistic skills and creativity lend themselves to the production of digital art making. An emphasis will be placed on portfolio development to prepare students for college applications, future careers, and/or taking the advanced placement digital art class. The Advanced Placement Digital Art course is for students who have found success in the preceding courses and would benefit from the additional challenge. In most cases, this course will be taught side by side with other AP Studio classes or Art 3 Digital Media and Design. The course will follow all College Board guidelines, and portfolios will be submitted using the Advanced Placement Studio 2D Art and Design requirements. For the first time, our students from all 11 VBCPS high schools will be prepared to submit a portfolio using digital art as their selected medium. This slide illustrates the sequence of coursework in the proposed pathway. We are proposing a phased-in implementation approach because of the planning that is needed for these courses to be established. The digital media and design pathway will require a dedicated space to set up an iMac lab at each school. Art 2 will begin implementation with 2 schools in the 2022-23 school year. The goal is to have a fully implemented digital media and design pathway by the 2026-27 school year. I'm really excited to let you know that there is a great deal of interest and support for this student opportunity in the community. The companies whose logos are represented on this slide are all digital art studios and organizations that have already committed to supporting our digital art teachers and students by doing the following: serving as an outlet for teachers to ask questions about processes, tools, and content, visiting with students via Zoom and in person to serve as advisors and share their profession, and serving as an authentic audience and providing professional feedback to students on their digital portfolios. This slide shows the cost breakdown per year through the full implementation of the digital media and design pathway in 26-27 school year. The equipment needed for these courses includes iMac computers. iMacs were chosen for these courses so that the student experience aligns with industry standards in professional and college settings, thereby preparing students for success. Additional equipment needed includes digital drawing tablets, printers, furniture, and accessories needed to fully integrate a lab. There are not any equipment costs beginning in the 25-26 school year because by that point, all iMac labs will have been established with the implementation of Art 2. Instructional materials include the cost of paper, toner, and exhibition materials for student displays. Professional learning costs include training for teachers on each of the courses prior to the year of